I like a lot of. I mean, I mean, what's been great has just been the sheer quality of the game.
Not the sheer quality of your Wi-Fi, Paul, but hopefully it'll come back in a second.
I've got some editing to do, haven't I?
I'll tell you what, Pete, why don't you go, and then hopefully Paul will drop back in a minute.
Okay.
We don't want to edit. This is all part of, this is the beauty of life. This is the beauty of life. Oh, here he is.
He's back again.
He's back again. Sorry.
Was that me? Did I disappear?
Yes. We heard you say what's been lovely is just the sheer quality of.
Yeah, sheer quality of the guests over the last year. I think we haven't really struggled to find good people, and certainly not struggled to find people who are willing to tell you and tell you their stories and give people value. But I think it's just the power of decision making has been the main theme for me for this year. Is just like to not be frozen in indecision. I think a lot of people like Simon Marion, I'm trying to think now, a couple of other guests, particularly the coaches, people who come from more the mental side of things, they just talk about how they get people into a state where they can make a decision. And I think that's been fascinating talking to those, and that's really where I've been mainly influenced. I think, just that mindset game. I think that's more important. Every day I run business, every day I train myself. As much as I love techniques and new ideas, and I love the flights of fancy and exploration, it's just that mindset, because it's been my biggest weakness, and it's also, I can see it's the strength at times. It's just but it's a thing that I battle with, and a thing that interests me.
Okay, that's excellent. And then that may be part of that, as like you say, it's helpful for you to be thinking about this and to know about this for when you're coaching others, but also, like you say, for yourself, that big leap of faith, or that big decision that you've made sort of at the back of this year, where with the new premises and things. I mean, that does, as someone who runs their own business as well, big decisions like that are, they're not easy to make, are they? And you just have to, it is almost like a leap of faith in many ways.
Yeah, I think the thing is you always got to be kind of comfortable with a certain kind of amount of risk. And particularly if you're running your own business, you're kind of a risk taker, and the more experienced people seem to be able to manage that risk better and understand the consequences of the decisions they make. But in a way, I'm trying not to overthink it a little bit. I'm just trying to just do. I think the only challenge that comes to that is just doing so much, and just because, as Peter said in the intro, I suppose to phrase it slightly different, is the tyranny of the urgent. Everything needs to be done. Everything's a priority, and I can't also lose sight of like working with my clients. That's got to be the main thing I do. Spending time actually making sure that they're getting what they want, because it's easy just to be drifting to these esoteric things or the stuff that's pressing in my admin folder. So just I think that's a lot of the guests. Whenever a guest is talking, I'm always gravitating to that kind of aspect of what they're talking about.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And then Pete, for yourself, this last year, like you say, you've sort of the last quarter of the year, you've kind of, embarked on something slightly different yourself. But what's the if you could kind of summarize, your experience, what would it be?
Yeah, like Paul's just hit on loads of stuff there. Number one, Vicky's episode. I got a text off friend of the show, Ben Morris. Yeah, burpees the other day, and he was saying that was great. He said, I've only listened to 5 minutes of it. It's already a brilliant episode, and I really like that. I like episodes like that because they're very factual about things that most people don't know and that you can't necessarily find on the internet. So if you want to lose weight and you want to get fitter, stronger, and all that, you can go and find a program on the internet. It's there, and all you have to do is just follow a thing and do it. But most people can't or don't end up following the entire thing, and because life gets in the way. Whereas the stuff that Helen spoke about, I can't even remember when she was on. I don't know if that was last year, wasn't it? But anyway,
no, Helen might have been. Well, it might have been sort of towards the start of this year. So 10 months ago.
So when we had her on, and then when we had Vicky on, they were talking about things that are very, very hard to find information on, I think, or good information, put it that way. So that was a really informative episode, and I enjoyed that. And I still think the idea that we had to do a little series of it from, through like a life events was great.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, I mean, like we've had I don't know if we've had more mindset people on, or I've just been thinking about mindset more in terms of the conversations we've had. But when we had, Simon Marion was great, obviously. I was talking about him last night, actually. And Mark Bennett was really good, just about the thought process that goes into coaching rather than actual coaching. Because the coaching bit, I mean, fair enough, there's an art to, people talk about the art of coaching and all that sort of stuff, which there is. But the actual getting people to do stuff, once they know how to do it, it's not getting them to do it. It's getting them to keep doing it and doing it progressively and what have you. So what Paul's just been talking about there about his new place and getting, taking risk. Because every new adventure, every new thing is a risk, isn't it? There's a risk to doing it. Or it's just scary. Like people think there's a risk to getting in shape. And it's like, well, there's not really. It's just quite scary because it's something new and your brain sees it as a risk.
I swear people buy a house quicker than they make a decision around their health.
Exactly. And it's funny, but like, because what you were saying, and I've had this recently, because when you start to change what you do, some people drop off, some people come in new and all of that. And it kind of gets very, what's like insecure or uncertain about what's going on. And if you start to, I'm talking about me here, but like if you in general start to think, you've had one bad day, you've had a wedding at the weekend or whatever, and you fall off the wagon, and then everything's knackered, and that's it, your program's done, you haven't stuck to it, and you let your emotions take over in all of that, then it's just never going to work, is it? So in the thing like we've just been talking about there, like in business and what have you, if you have a good month, everyone's happy, way brilliant. If you have a bad month, it's like, oh no, life's over. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't go month to month. It's a longer term thing. And I think that I've started thinking about that a lot more, about reactions to immediate issues. And then, so like the overwhelm thing I was talking about, and having lots of things to do, but not being super busy, but having a busy brain. This is what will happen with people when they're getting in shape as well, or starting out a new program or whatever. And they've got so much going on in their lives, especially the people we talk to who are of a certain age and have got kids and jobs and responsibilities and all that. All of that stuff is going around in your head, and you're trying to pile something new on top of it. So the whole kind of ethos around my stuff now is more around behavior change than getting in shape, because that's actually what it is, and it is behavior change. And if you try to do everything at once, your brain just can't cope with it.
That's one of the big things
shuts you down.
I was going to say, one of the big things that Mark Lewis said, it may have been in part 1 or part 2. I can't remember.
We'll find out when we get there.
Find out when they come out.
Sorry,
depends where you edit it. Yeah. When he said, if you've got good habits but you haven't got a goal, then you're in a good place. If you've got a goal but you don't have good habits, then you're nowhere. And I really like that. And I think we've had lots of Dan John's one of the main ones that comes to mind. But we've had lots of people, and they tend to be older people who are a bit more experienced and a bit wiser and all the rest of it, who say, actually, you don't need a cast iron goal all the time, but if you're setting these good habits and this behavior change, like you say, it's far easier to then set yourself a goal with good habits in place, rather than to set yourself a goal with no good habits in place, because then you really are, you're then starting to kind of, you're starting from scratch, and you've got to then establish all the habits and things. So I think that the kind of line that you're taking is fantastic.